Chapter 6. Kat was floating, not in the disembodied sense. This time she could feel her body, her limbs heavy with unspeakable exhaustion, her skin tender to touch. She wasn't fully aware of her surroundings, but one thing was clear. Someone was taking care of her. Gentle hands lifted her into warm water, and strong arms held her securely while someone else washed her hair. The sensations were so soothing she wanted to drift away to sleep. But I am asleep, aren't I? If not, why can't I wake up? The same hands dried her off and put a straw between her lips. Kat sucked reflexively, and a delicious fruity flavor that seemed to be a cross between watermelon, strawberry, and some other fruit she couldn't name filled her mouth. "That's right, my lady," a deep, somehow familiar voice murmured. "Drink deeply. Nourish yourself. It's almost time to attempt the bond." What bond? Kat wanted to ask, but she was stuck, held in the same strange limbo she sensed she'd been in for days. Was it a coma? They said that people in comas retained some consciousness and heard everything that was said to them. But would she be able to drink from a straw if she was truly unconscious? Kat didn't think so. It was all very confusing. She finished the drink, and someone fluffed a pillow behind her head and drew a light blanket over her naked body. "Sleep now," the familiar voice murmured. "I must tend to my brother. He's almost healed, so maybe next time." But he didn't finish what he was saying. Next time what? Kat wanted to demand. But she felt so warm and comfortable she couldn't be bothered to form the words. Instead, she slid into darkness and let herself dream. "You're healing well." Locke eyed the broad expanse of his twin's back critically. "Of course, there will be scars. Extensive scars, I'm afraid." Deep, who was sitting at the edge of the large bed they shared, grunted noncommittally. "All warriors have scars." "Most get them in battle, though." Gently, Locke smoothed some of the healing lotion Mother Loren had given them over his brother's wounds. Most of them were nothing but pinkish-white lines now, crisscrossing the tan expanse of Deep's back. The wise woman had been right. He was healing remarkably quickly. His body, anyway. Locke feared that he would carry the memory of the beating with him forever. Not that he would admit to caring about such a thing, or anything for that matter. "Do you want to help me attend to Kat again tonight?" he asked, changing the subject. Deep frowned. "She's not going to be happy when she finds out we've been bathing her while she's unconscious, you know." "We drape towels over her to preserve her modesty," Locke protested. "Besides, we're only acting on Mother Loren's orders. She said Kat needed to spend plenty of time in the bathing pool. Warm water is healing." "Kat won't see it like that," Deep predicted sourly. "She'll think it's a violation, and she'll think the same thing about completing the soul bond." "We have to complete the bond. Nothing else will heal her fractured spirit." "Maybe she doesn't want to be healed. Maybe she'd rather be dead than bonded to the two of us." Deep snapped. "Did you ever think about that?" "I know what you're thinking, but Kat isn't like that. She isn't like her," Locke said in a low voice. "So you say." Deep frowned moodily. "We swore to Sophia and Olivia that we would do everything in our power to protect and heal Kat," Locke reminded his brother. "We're doing a wonderful job so far, aren't we?" Deep snarled. "We're the reason she's sick in the first place. We should never have used her as a focus. Never let ourselves feel." He shook his head. "It's too late for those regrets now," Locke said softly, dabbing more lotion on his brother's back. He could feel how tense Deep was, could see it in the way his broad shoulders bunched with misery. The emotion echoed inside his heart, making him ache for his twin. "All we can do is try to heal her, to undo the damage we've done." "By completing a soul bond with a female who never wants to take the next step and make the physical bond with us as well? What good will it do any of us to have half a bond?" Deep demanded. "It will heal the Lady Kat," Locke said firmly, trying to ignore his own fears. "That's all that matters right now." Deep sighed and his broad shoulders slumped.
Have it your way, brother. But don't be surprised if she wants nothing to do with either one of us when this is over.
4 large warm hands on her body woke her up. They weren't touching her anywhere inappropriate, shoulders, hips, thighs, but they were there on her bare skin. Bare skin. Oh my God, I'm naked! And so were the large male bodies bracketing her own. She could feel their muscular warmth against her back and breasts, surrounding her, invading her, owning her. The familiar current of sexual electricity was running through her body. The feeling she always got when Deep and Locke were touching her bare skin at the same time. When the 3 of them were... Kat's eyes flew open, and she found herself looking into Locke's melted chocolate gaze.
"Welcome back to the land of the living, my lady,"
he murmured with a smile.
"We're very glad to have you back." "Locke's right. You gave us quite a scare."
Deep's voice rumbled from behind her.
"We didn't think you would make it there for a while."
"I almost died," Kat blurted, the memory momentarily overcoming her shock at finding herself naked between them. "I was floating above my own body, looking down. I saw you talking about me, and then..." She frowned. "I had another dream. It was terrible, but it's over now." Locke finished for her, soothingly.
"You're getting better, Kat, but you're not out of danger yet."
"In my dream, you were taking me to Twin Moons. Where am I?" she demanded.
"I would think that would be obvious,"
Deep growled in her ear.
"You're in our bed, little cat, and that's where you're going to stay until you're all better."
"What are you talking about?" She struggled to get up, but they held her down, gently but firmly.
"Don't be upset,"
Locke pleaded.
"We won't hurt you, my lady. You must know that by now."
"Look, I don't know what you 2 think you're doing, but I'm not interested in any more joinings, especially after the way I felt after our last one. I had a headache so bad I felt like my skull was going to split in 2.
"We fully comprehend your pain,"
Locke said. "Easy for you to say," Kat muttered. "You can talk about it all you want, but..."
"It's not just talk."
Deep's voice was unexpectedly somber.
"Locke and I know what we put you through, and we can't tell you how much we regret it."
Kat sighed. "All right. It's not like it's all your fault. After all, I was the one who asked for the last joining in order to find Sophie. I guess you could say I got what was coming to me."
"No."
Locke shook his head.
"We were dabbling in an area we didn't fully understand. We never should have used you as a focus in the first place. And we have no interest in doing it again now,"
Deep continued.
"What we're trying to do is heal you."
"Heal me? You're trying to heal me by rubbing against me?" Kat didn't even try to keep the skepticism out of her voice. "Yeah, right."
"Truly, milady."
Locke's brown eyes were earnest.
"Mother Lorin."
"Who?"
"The healer we brought you to our home planet to see,"
Deep supplied.
"She's an expert in the seeker-finder-focus relationship as well as a master of her craft."
"Okay, let me get this straight," Kat said. "I was at death's door, so you 2 brought me home to the wise old healer lady to be cured. And her prescription was for us to all get naked together in bed?" She twisted around to frown at Deep. "Can you see why I'm not buying this? I mean, come on, guys, give me a break."
"It's true."
Deep glared at her, his coal black eyes burning.
"Your spirit has been fractured by the stress of acting as our focus. Until we bind it securely back to your body, you're in danger of dying."
"Deep is right," Locke said softly.
"Your spirit could become untethered again at any time."
"Well, that's a risk I guess I'll have to take," Kat snapped. "I'll let you know if I see a bright tunnel and start hearing the voices of dead relatives telling me to go into the light. Until then, you 2 can keep your hands and your, other body parts to yourselves." She started to sit up, and this time, as if by mutual consent, they let her. But the moment she was upright, dizziness swept over her, making the world spin and the room dance. She had a vague impression of a large masculine space lit by soft glowing lights in the corners. Then she had to put her head in her hands and shut her eyes to keep from getting sick. "My lady, are you all right?" Locke's voice was anxious. "Fine. I'm just fine," Kat managed to say weakly. But she wasn't fooling anyone, not even herself.
"Little liar," Deep growled. "Lie back down and let us take care of you."
"But I can't." Kat shook her head and wished she hadn't. It made the dizziness worse.
"Come back between us," Locke urged. "Please, Kat. You know we only want what's best for you."
Kat struggled to remain upright a little longer, but when she lifted her head again, the spinning sensation was even worse. "Oh, God, I can't take this."
"Satisfied?" Deep asked. "The only way to make it better is to let us heal you. So stop acting stupid and let us."
"I'm not stupid," Kat snapped angrily, even as she allowed Locke to guide her back down to the bed. "That's the main reason I object to letting you two grope me as a form of holistic healing."
"What exactly do you think we're trying to do here?" Deep demanded. "You think we want to fuck you?"
His rough words made Kat's stomach clench.
"I sure as hell hope not, for your sake,"
she said evenly.
"You try it and I'll knee both of you so hard you'll be wearing your balls for bow ties." "Bravely spoken, little cat."
Deep had the nerve to sound amused.
"But that isn't what this is about at all. We just need to heal you."
"And how exactly do you expect to do that?" Kat asked, trying to keep her voice from trembling.
"We have to use pleasure to bind your spirit back to your body."
Locke's voice was soothing.
"How much pleasure? What exactly are you going to do?"
Kat whispered.
"Just touch you."
Locke cupped her cheek and looked earnestly into her eyes.
"My lady, Kat, please believe me when I say we would never try to take advantage of you. What we're doing here is necessary, I swear it."
Kat opened her mouth to respond, but suddenly she remembered something Sophie had told her. After her crash in the mountains with Sylvan, she'd woken up to find him licking her breast. She'd been sure he was up to no good, but it had turned out that he was actually healing her. Could it be that Locke and Deep really were on the level? That they were only doing what they had to in order to make her whole again? It seemed crazy, but then a lot of things associated with the Kindred did, she reminded herself. Blowing out a breath, she nodded reluctantly.
"All right, but no sex, especially not bonding sex, whatever that entails with you guys." "Don't worry." Deep's voice sounded bitter. "Locke and I would never want to tie an unwilling bride to us. The results would be tragic."
Kat twisted to look at him again. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?"
"Never mind," Locke said quickly. "Deep just means that we would never physically bond you to us against your will. So, shall we begin?"
"I guess if we have to." Kat could feel her heart thumping against her ribs. God, how did she keep getting into this kind of situation, and how could she avoid it in the future?
"We do," Deep said grimly. "But I don't see how we're going to give you enough pleasure to heal your spirit when you're so unhappy about it." "Do you really find our hands on you so distasteful?"
Locke's eyes were wistful. "No." Kat closed her eyes briefly. "No, you know I don't."
"Then try to relax," he urged. "Please, my lady. Here."
Kat had been lying on her side facing Locke, with Deep behind her. Now Locke turned her gently but firmly until she was lying on her back, with both of them leaning over her. "This is worse," Kat objected, trying to cover her bare breasts and sex with her hands. "I feel so exposed."
"Are you ashamed to let us look at you?"
Deep's voice was surprisingly gentle.
"You shouldn't be, little cat. I have never seen such beauty in my life."
"But I'm—" So many words hovered on her lips. Fat, chubby, chunky. Insults from a lifetime of being plus-sized in a world where skinny women were the ideal. Living as a size 18 in a society that preferred a size 8 hadn't been easy.
Not thin, she finished at last. We know. Locke's voice held only admiration. You're an elite, the most beautiful one I've ever seen. That's right, they like big girls here. It was still a novel concept to Kat, who was used to being defensive about her ample curves. All right, she said at last, but only because the lights in here are pretty dim. I don't want you to think I'll be parading around in my birthday suit just because you two are into plus-sized women. Of course, Locke assured her. We would never want you to do anything that made you uncomfortable. Slowly, her heart beating so hard she could almost hear it drumming in her ears, she let her hands drift to her sides. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes and tried to relax. Deep couldn't stop looking at her. Kat's long, silky auburn hair glistened in the soft light of the glows, and her full, creamy breasts rose and fell with each breath she took. They were tipped with deep pink nipples that were tight and erect, just begging to be sucked. And how he longed to do just that, to taste her. The last time they had been together, it had been Locke that she allowed to suck her sweet, ripe peaks. Deep had cupped them in his hands, but he still hadn't had the pleasure of teasing her nipples with his mouth. Looking lower, he saw that her voluptuous body was curved in all the right places, her hips and thighs deliciously ample. The small triangle of dark red curls that guarded her sex made his mouth water. He longed to press his face against her there and breathe her in, to inhale the warm, secret scent of her pussy until she spread her legs for him and let him in. He wanted to taste her, to lap her juices from the source and feel her small, delicate hands tugging his hair as she cried his name and begged for more. Just the thought of it made his cock so hard it ached. Shouldn't be thinking this way. Shouldn't let her affect you so much. But he couldn't help it. She was absolutely gorgeous. Adding to her appeal was the obvious fact that she had no idea how beautiful and desirable she was. Though how an elite could have no idea of her own devastating attraction, he didn't know. "What are you going to do to me?" Kat murmured, and he realized that he and Locke had both been staring too long, drinking in her beauty. "Touch you," he said, trying to soften his voice, which kept coming out too rough. "Bring you pleasure. Make you come." Her eyes flew open. You have to do that?" "An orgasm is the fastest way to bind your spirit back to your body." Locke spoke quietly, obviously trying to relax her. "But we'll be gentle, my lady. You know we will." "But—" Her eyes were wide with fear and uncertainty. "What exactly—" "To start with, this." Leaning closer, Deep kissed the side of her neck gently. Her skin was as smooth as silk against his lips, and he could feel her pulse pounding out of control just under the surface. Gods, she smelled good. He deepened the kiss, lapping hungrily at her neck. Kat drew in a ragged breath, and he knew he was affecting her. Looking up briefly, he caught his brother's eyes and nodded. Locke knew what to do. Sliding down, he pressed his mouth to the other side of Kat's neck and began to kiss and lick gently while Deep continued to do the same. "Oh!" The soft sound fell out of her, and she trembled between them. "That feels so good." "It's about to feel better," Deep assured her, looking up. Cupping her right breast, he thumbed the tight butt of her nipple. Her soft gasp of pleasure and surprise went straight to his cock, making it feel like a bar of steel trapped between his thighs. "Gods, I want you, Kat," he growled, capturing her eyes with his own, not letting her look away. "Want to feel you under me while Locke and I fill you at the same time." "Deep." Locke put a restraining hand on his arm. "Don't frighten her." "I'm not frightened." Kat lifted her chin, her blue eyes snapping in the dim light. "But I'm not willing to go that far either." "And there's the problem. We're forming a bond with a female who doesn't want to be bonded to us, and we haven't even told her what we're doing. Not really. There's going to be hell to pay when she finds out."
Deep felt a wave of frustration.
"We're aware that you don't want to go too far, little cat," he growled. "But know this, you will spread your legs for us tonight, even if it isn't to get fucked."
Kat's breath caught in her throat at his blunt words. "I don't see why I should have to do that," she said, wishing her voice didn't tremble so much.
"Because unless you can come from having your nipples sucked, Locke and I need to access your pussy,"
Deep said roughly.
"Remember how you didn't want to let me open you and stroke your sweet little cunt the last time we were together? Well, this time you'll have to."
"It's all right, my lady," Locke murmured, leaning down to kiss her cheek.
"We'll go very slowly if you like, and penetration might not be necessary. It might just be enough for us to stroke or kiss you between your thighs."
"Kiss?" Kat's heart skipped a beat. "But I thought that you just wanted to touch me."
"We want to do whatever we can to bring you the most pleasure."
Locke cupped her left breast and laid a soft, hot kiss on her nipple.
"See, that's not so bad, is it?"
"Not there, it's not," Kat said. "But I just don't know."
"You don't have to know,"
Deep interrupted.
"All you have to do is spread your legs for us and let us touch you and taste you." "We can try touching first,"
Locke assured her.
"If the idea of being tasted makes you uncomfortable, here."
His hand slid down her trembling abdomen to cup her mound of curls gently.
"Like this. Does that feel all right?"
"I suppose," Kat admitted doubtfully.
"Spread her open."
There was a hungry look in Deep's eyes as he watched his brother's hand between her legs.
"Slip your fingers inside her soft little pussy and see how wet she is."
"May I?" Locke looked at her uncertainly.
"Or would you prefer that we suck your nipples some more first?" "I'll take care of her nipples."
Suiting actions to words, Deep leaned over and sucked her right peak deeply into his hot mouth, taking as much of her breast as he could at once. Kat couldn't help herself. She moaned and arched her back, responding to the fierce suction and the burning desire she could feel inside him. God, he wanted her so badly. "Oh my God, their emotions. I'm beginning to feel them again." Suddenly she realized that she hadn't been filled with their feelings when she first woke up, but now. "Wait!" she gasped, trying to push them away. "Wait, I can feel you again." Deep looked up, his full lips red from sucking.
"Of course you can. We're touching you, tasting you."
"That's not what I meant," Kat protested. "Your emotions. I can feel them inside me again."
"That's a good sign,"
Locke told her.
"It means your spirit is being bound back to your body. You're becoming part of the physical plane again."
But I don't like it." Kat frowned. "It's so invasive, so uncomfortable."
"You think it's comfortable for us to know how you feel?"
Deep growled.
"How frightened you are of bonding with us? Because it's damn sure not, I can tell you that."
"At least you're used to it," Kat pointed out, refusing to rise to the bait about her being frightened. "You feel each other's emotions all the time, don't you?"
"When we're not blocking each other out."
Locke sighed.
"I'm sorry it's so uncomfortable for you to feel us, my lady, but it really is unavoidable. After this is over, I swear we'll go back to Mother Lorin and see if we can find a way for you to put a barrier up between your mind and ours, if that's what you really want."
"Is that even possible?" Kat demanded. "You're not just saying that so you can keep going."
"Mind privacy comes naturally to twins," Locke told her, "but it can be taught too, at least among my people. I don't know about yours."
"Well," Kat said hesitantly. She was throbbing all over, from the tips of her breasts to the sensitive V between her legs, which made it damned hard to think straight. "I guess so."
"Then we'd better get on with it,"
Deep finished for her.
As I was saying, Locke and I need to know how wet you are.
I don't... Deep leaned closer, his eyes blazing into hers.
Spread your legs for us, little cat. Open your pussy and let us see if you're slippery with honey.
Cat had no defenses left. She was being swamped in a sea of lust, and only a third of it was her own. Feeling like she was drowning, she spread her legs and allowed them both to look at her.
Gorgeous,
Locke murmured, his admiration radiating against her like sunshine.
So delicate and lovely.
He looked up at her.
May I spread you open, my lady? May Deep and I see your inner folds?
I don't understand why you need to, Cat protested feebly.
We need to know how far we have to go to make you come,
Deep growled softly.
If you're wet and ready, it might just be enough for one of us to touch you, unless you want to let one of us taste you.
No, not really, she whispered. All right, just be gentle.
Of course.
Locke and Deep exchanged a glance, and Locke said,
If we need to taste you, my lady, I will be the one to do it.
Cat was flooded with relief. If they had to go that far, she wanted Locke to be the one who went down on her. Letting Deep do something so intimate seemed dangerous somehow, like trusting a panther to lick your face instead of biting it off. Not that she actually thought he would hurt her. He was just so intense it was frightening, overwhelming. All right, she whispered again, and tried to relax as she felt Locke gently part the lips of her pussy. She jumped slightly when he stroked a fingertip over her swollen clit.
You're wet, my lady.
His deep voice was thick with lust, and she could feel his desire filling her.
Wet, but not wet enough,
Deep said in a dangerously soft voice.
You need to be tasted, little cat. Need to have your pussy licked.
Cat's entire body was so tight with tension, she felt like she was going to burst. You're sure?
Positive. Deep is right.
Moving down the bed, Locke positioned himself between her legs.
Open yourself for me, my lady. Don't worry, I'm just going to kiss you.
Biting her lip, Cat watched as he spread her thighs wide with his broad shoulders. Beside her, she could feel the muscular bulk of Deep's large body. His cock was hard and hot against her thigh, and the dark spice of his scent made her dizzy.
Watch him,
he growled in her ear.
Watch Locke open you. Watch him taste you.
It was the same thing he'd said during their last joining, when Locke was sucking her nipples. Why do you always want me to watch? Cat demanded breathlessly.
Because then I know you can't deny it, even to yourself.
Deep stroked her cheek, his large hands surprisingly gentle.
If you watch, you have to admit it's really happening, little cat, and that you're really enjoying it.
Cat had no answer for that. She watched, mesmerized, as Locke parted her pussy lips once more and placed a soft, open-mouthed kiss on the throbbing button of her clit. God! Her back arched as pleasure raced through her. But she needed more, much more. Locke seemed to understand.
I need to lick you, my lady,
he murmured, looking up at her.
May I have your permission? Tell him yes.
Deep directed her in a low voice.
Say, yes, Locke, I want you to lick my pussy.
Cat felt her entire body heat with a blush. Why should I have to say that? Deep tilted her chin towards him and looked into her eyes.
Because you need to admit you want it. Admit you need it. And because I want to hear you say it. Go on.
Wetting her lips, Cat forced herself to speak the words. Yes, Locke. I want you to lick me.
To lick my pussy,
Deep corrected her.
Say it right, Cat. Tell Locke what you want.
He still held her eyes with his own, and she felt helpless to look away, helpless to disobey his orders. "Locke," she whispered, looking at Deep as she said the words. "I want you to lick my pussy. Please." She felt a surge of lust from Deep, and he growled with approval.
"Very good. I didn't tell you to add the please, but it was a nice touch." "I will gladly taste you, my lady," Locke murmured. "I've wanted to do this since the first moment I laid eyes on you." "We both have," Deep said, stroking her cheek again. "Watch now, Cat. Watch and tell me how it feels."
Cat watched as Locke dipped his dark blonde head between her thighs again. She honestly couldn't believe she was doing this. Couldn't believe she was lying here with the two of them, naked and spread open, completely defenseless while Locke licked her pussy and Deep watched. She moaned softly as Locke started at the bottom of her slit and gave her a long, loving taste. His tongue was hot against her sensitive clit, hot and gentle and incredibly intense all at the same time.
"Delicious,"
he said softly, looking up at her, his mouth wet with her juices.
"I love the way you taste, my lady."
Thank you," Cat stuttered as Locke went back for a second taste. God, his tongue felt incredible on her. He was tracing her now, circling her clit in slow, intricate patterns that seemed designed to drive her crazy. She could feel herself getting close to the edge almost immediately, but she still needed something, something she hardly dared name, even to herself.
"How does it feel?"
Deep demanded as Locke continued to lick and suck her inner folds.
"Do you like his tongue between your legs? Does it make you feel like you need to be fucked?"
Cat's breath caught in her throat. How had Deep known? But of course he could feel her emotions, the same way she could feel his and Locke's. She knew it must be part of the strange, unwanted link they shared, but that didn't make her feel any less embarrassed. "I told you, I don't want to go that far," she said breathlessly, trying to frown at Deep.
"You don't have to,"
he assured her.
"What you need is penetration. I can provide that easily enough without using my cock, if you'll let me."
Cat bit her lip. Did she dare? She could see the hunger in his eyes, could hear the longing in his deep voice, but most of all she could feel the need coming off him in waves. He knows I'm afraid to trust him. He knows he scares me. And that knowledge hurt him somehow, hurt him deeply.
"I know you fear me,"
Deep said, as though reading her mind.
"but I swear I would never hurt you, little cat. Please, will you let me bring you pleasure?"
"Yes," she whispered, giving in at last. "Just this once. I guess it will be all right."
"Very good."
Deep plundered her mouth suddenly in a kiss that took her breath away. When he pulled back, he looked at her intently.
"If I only get to do it once, then let's make it count."
"Deep," Cat started to say, but he was already pulling her close and sliding his hand under her to cup her pussy from below. Locke stopped licking her for a moment and looked up to catch her gaze. "It's all right, my lady," he murmured, stroking her inner thigh soothingly.
"Deep's going to penetrate you with his fingers. Just open yourself for him and let him feel your pussy."
Cat was drowning again, filled with their emotions as well as her own. But she knew there was no way around what was happening. She had to go through it. Had to allow them to do as they wanted in order to come out the other side. Just once, she promised herself. Only once. She looked at Deep and nodded her head. "All right."
"Very good. That's a good girl, Cat."
Slowly, two thick fingers breached her entrance and slid deep inside her pussy. Deep held her eyes as he penetrated her, watching her intently as he filled her.
"Such a good girl to let me finger fuck your tight little cunt."
Cat lifted her chin.
I'm only doing it because I have to, she said, staring back at him challengingly. Because there's no other way. I know. Instead of the anger she had expected, there was a depth of sadness in his voice that made her heart ache for some reason. But I want you to enjoy it anyway. The sadness faded, to be replaced by lust. So tell me if you like it. Tell me how you want it. What do you mean? Kat frowned, not understanding him. Do you want it soft and gentle, like this? Deep's fingers withdrew, and then pumped back into her in a long, slow glide as he kissed her cheek. Do you want me to be sweet to you, and fuck you gently while Locke licks your pussy? He murmured. As if on cue, the blonde twin went back to lapping her open cunt. Kat moaned out loud at the dual sensations of having one brother's tongue laving her wet folds, while the other brother pierced her with his fingers. God, it was too much. How could she stand it? And yet still, she needed more. Deep seemed to sense it. You want it harder, little cat? He asked, his black eyes half-lidded with lust. You need more? Well, you're going to have to ask for it. Damn you! Kat glared at him. What are you, some kind of a sexual sadist? Deep laughed. No, I'll leave that kind of behavior for the scourge. But I want to hear exactly what you want, what you need. Locke looked up again. I know it seems like Deep is teasing you, my lady cat, but truly, he doesn't want to hurt you. He needs to know that you want it before he penetrates you with more force. His brown eyes pleaded with her to understand, to forgive. Kat thought with exasperation that it was clear why the twin kindred always came in pairs. Without Locke to explain and apologize for him, Deep would be completely incomprehensible. He needed his brother to act as an emotional interpreter. Fine, she said, glaring at Deep. I need it harder. Faster. Is that what you need to hear? Yes, exactly what I need to hear. But I want you to say it right. Say what? Kat squirmed impatiently. God, if he didn't start soon. Ask me to fuck you. His voice was a soft, lustful growl. And say my name when you do. I want to hear it on your sweet lips, little cat. Want to hear you ask me for what you need. Kat's breath caught in her throat, but she had never been one to back down. All right, then. It took all her courage, and her heart was thumping like a jackhammer, but she looked him straight in his midnight black eyes as she spoke. Fuck me deep, she said in a soft, challenging tone. Fuck me hard. I need you to. Gods! His voice was hoarse with lust as he pumped deep into her open cunt, his thick fingers pistoning in and out of her until she moaned. So beautiful, little cat, he growled. How I wish I was fucking you with my cock instead of my fingers. For a moment, Kat let herself imagine that. The thought of his huge, muscular body covering hers filled her mind. Fucking Deep would be like fucking a tiger, something so fierce and wild it was completely uncontrollable. She would be helpless, able only to spread her legs wide and try to accommodate his thick cock as he pounded into her, as he filled her with his shaft and his seed. Yes, Deep whispered in her head. I would ravage you, little cat. Fuck you hard and long until I filled your pussy with my hot cum. But don't forget, I wouldn't be the only one. Another image filled her mind. This time Locke had joined the equation, filling her from behind. He held her and steadied her, helping her take Deep's rough, delicious loving as he stroked slowly into her himself. God, Kat thought half deliriously. To be filled by both of them like that. To be fucked by two cocks at once. And that's only one of the ways we could take you, Deep taunted her. Think, little cat. With 3 instead of just 2, the possibilities are limitless.
Kat gasped as a barrage of images raced through her overloaded mind. She saw herself on her hands and knees sucking Locke while Deep took her from behind. Saw Locke fucking her while Deep lapped her open pussy. And then, most frightening of all, she saw them bracketing her as they were now. Both of them were thrusting up and into her, and it was clear that they were both piercing her at the same time in the same place. No! Fear raced through her. Surely that wasn't possible. Her stomach clenched, but not only with fright.
You want it,
Deep whispered in her head.
Want to take us both, to feel Locke and I filling your sweet pussy at the same time.
No, Kat denied, but her mental voice sounded weak, even to herself. Surely he had to be kidding her. There was no way.
You're close now, my lady. I can feel it,
Locke murmured from between her legs, breaking her train of thought.
Just open yourself to both of us and let go. Let us take you where you need to be.
Ducking his head, he sucked her clit between his lips and began to lash it with his tongue. The intensely pleasurable sensations coupled with her forbidden fantasies were too much. God! Kat gripped the bedspread beneath her and bucked up, unable to stop herself from moving. The brothers were working in tandem now, neither one of them getting in the other's way despite the close quarters. They seemed to be feeding off each other and her, setting up a mutual rhythm of licking and thrusting that pushed her to the edge of orgasm faster and harder than she'd ever been pushed before.
You're going to come soon,
Deep murmured in her ear, his breath hot against the side of her neck.
When you do, I want you to look into my eyes. I want to see it when you lose control.
Kat wanted to shake her head, wanted to deny him, but somehow she couldn't. Unable to stop herself, she turned to face him and felt herself drowning in the midnight depths of his gaze. God! She gasped as the pleasure peaked inside her. I can't. I'm...
You're coming.
Deep's voice was a low, lustful growl as he held her gaze.
I can feel you all around me, squeezing my fingers. Gods, I wish it was my cock instead.
Kat shook her head. No, not...
Don't worry.
He frowned.
Locke and I know you don't want to go there with us. With me. But a male can dream, can't he?
The image of both of them fucking her at once filled her head again, and Kat knew it was more than his fantasy. It was his deepest wish, his most ardent desire. Kat couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but feel. As the orgasm rushed through her, she felt something click into place inside her. It was as though some vital part of her had come loose, but with the rush of pleasure it reconnected, anchoring itself firmly once more.
Is that my soul?
She wondered uncertainly.
My spirit? Am I all right now? Am I whole? We won't know until we take you back to Mother Lorraine to be examined.
Locke was looking up at her.
Forgive me, he said. I know we're not in adjoining, but I couldn't help hearing your questions. You think very loudly,
Deep agreed, grinning.
But then so do I. Wouldn't you say, little cat?
I'm sorry. Kat looked away uncomfortably, not wanting to acknowledge the forbidden exchange they'd had moments before. I'll, try not to think so loudly in the future. She couldn't help noticing that now that her orgasm was over, Locke had withdrawn and was no longer tasting or touching her pussy. Deep, however, still had his fingers buried inside her, filling her in a way that was both uncomfortable and erotic. How do I ask him to stop? What if I get excited again? What if...
Just ask me if you want me to stop penetrating you, little cat.
Deep sounded amused.
And to answer your question, if you get excited again, well, we'll just have to make you come again. Maybe I'll get between your thighs and taste your pussy this time. How would you like that?
Kat didn't know what to say. The idea of letting the dark twin go where his brother had gone still seemed wrong to her, dangerous. Deep, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I need for you to take your fingers out of me now.
Please.
That please again tacked onto the end. So very polite. He didn't sound happy about it, but he did withdraw his fingers, very slowly. Well, until next time.
There isn't going to be a next time, Kat reminded him, frowning.
Oh?
Deliberately he raised his fingers to his mouth and, keeping his eyes fixed on hers, sucked her juices off with apparent relish.
We'll see what Mother Lorin has to say about that.
Kat wanted to answer, but a sudden weariness took her, and she could only shake her head. Later, when I get more energy, I'm really going to let him have it.
I look forward to it, little cat.
Deep grinned at her mockingly.
You have no idea how much.